Hisar Foundation and Engro Foundation, in association with TV1, News 1, Wasaib and FM 91, presents the 5th Karachi International Water Conference webinar series on climate change and pandemic impact on water.
I welcome you to the 5th Karachi International Water Conference, which is being held this year as a webinar series on climate change and pandemic impact on water.
There were serious issues with respect to availability of safely managed water. Water, if you drink, you will be sure you will live, but there are many places where we drink water and at your own risk. So there are serious challenges which were there.
26% of the global population doesn't have access to safely managed drinking water. We need to move forward. We need to find a way to integrate all these issues.
We need to learn from our COVID experience and come together as one. And the whole world needs to be on the same page like it was for COVID.
The pandemic started, there were two kinds of the challenges we face. One was at the community level, the community-based challenges, and the other was with the organization or services-based challenges.
This is one time, like I think Dr. Nadia had also said, and other participants in the earlier session, that the attention is there and the organizations are willing to divert resources to upscale and upgrade, and where there is none, to put in place these resources to be able to meet the SDG-6. So then we would like to see the government try to rally, those the giver of those resources, and then get the resources and put these things in.
So first, Afia, who is President of Baambeli and Chair Board of Trustees of Indus Earth Trust. And I would like to also talk just a minute about Dr. Sheikh Tanveer Ahmed, the Chief Executive of HANDS, and for those of you who don't know HAND, Health and Nutrition Development Society. I've known him for 35 years or more, since the time I think we both started our careers in the development sector. So thank you very much, Dr. Tanveer, and I'm so glad that you were able to join us today. So now over to you again, Dr. Danish, to introduce Dr. Numan Ahmed.
Dr. Numan Ahmed and I have an association. I have always been inspired by his work in Karachi and his academic insights that I've always benefited from. Dr. Saab is the kind of academic that Pakistan needs, or his love for Karachi and his attention to Karachi.
डॉक्टर नुमान अहमद मेरी पुरानी पहचान है। उन्होंने कराची के लिए बहुत काम किया है और उनकी काविशें काबिले सताइश हैं। डॉक्टर नुमान अहमद, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया।
Thank you very much, Danish. And as just to begin on a lighter note, when in a situation of a mushaira in a traditional setting, the last poet has possibly the worst of the audience. I hope that this is not the case in this case, because the energies of the audience is completely exhausted by the time the traditional Shama reaches out to the last poet. Anyway,
last poet Ghalib ho aap jaisa.
Thank you for the compliment. I would just like to share a few slides about my work that we were able to do related to pandemic. When the pandemic struck, there were a number of initiatives that were taken by the government and various other stakeholders to fight it out. And some of them also affected the usual day-to-day life that was being carried out in a certain way. Some of the points have been discussed by the earlier speakers, so I'll focus my talk more towards Karachi and some of the work that was related to it. Now, just to quickly take you down, the pandemic actually struck us in February, and February was the time when the first cases were actually discovered in the case of Karachi, and the first cases were found to be travelers coming from different parts, different locations in the region. And obviously, there was a state of panic created, lockdowns and other measures were taken, more so in the case of Sindh and Karachi than perhaps the other locations. There was also a very rigorous regime of communication set in motion, and that communication helped communicate the standard operating procedures and other instructions to the wider audience on a much, I would say, quicker note. The digital media helped a lot in making these messages possible to be communicated to a very wide audience. Now, one of the success stories, so to say, that is being celebrated by the government is the National Command and Operations Center that was set up. And given the type of political climate that we have in Pakistan, where there is an enormous bickering between the provincial regimes and the federal government, the NCOC somehow came as a positive and slightly different type of an institutional arrangement. There were obviously testing services, isolation centers, and COVID wards set up. Dr. Nida Hussain of Ziauddin University informed us about her institution, and Dr. Tanveer about the work that Hans was able to do. There were other technological and intellectual inputs also contributed. Different epidemiologists and other experts got together to project the spread of the disease and also build alternative scenarios. So much of that was done, and the public was informed to a significant extent to take preventive measures. There were also distribution of different types of preventive supplies. That was one important consideration at that point in time. The government was also sensitized to the fact that sizable number of people would be affected due to lockdowns, as the economic activities, the daily wage activities would be completely halted. So they came together and initiated a very massive 1.2 trillion rupee SRs or cash distribution program in order to impact as much people, as much underprivileged and vulnerable people as possible. Wide range of non-governmental organizations of different ranks and profiles mobilized larger scale distribution of food, medicine, and other supplies. And in many cases, at least in larger cities, this was able to make some difference. Some fundamental statistics related to COVID, I was able to acquire data till September 21. About 1.25 million people were infected. And obviously this figure could be debatable because this was subject to the testing services. The total deaths reported in Pakistan were 27,597. And obviously there were many unreported deaths that may have been caused by COVID, but somehow they didn't get reported that way. Total infected in Sindh, including Karachi, were about 500,000 people. And total deaths reported in Sindh, including Karachi, were about 7,350. Now, there were obviously different issues related to data because the data was coming from different sources, different districts, but it was not so much geographically segregated. And some of my colleagues who were working very closely with the government of Sindh, they expressed their helplessness to organize and, in fact, segregate data on the basis of geographical parameters, which could have been much more useful in doing further research. And these are few common concerns of Karachi citizens, that while these emergencies keep hitting us, just to remind you that yesterday we had earthquake tremors felt in Karachi, and everyone was in a panic. Everyone was asking the question that whether we have a disaster mitigation plan that would automatically swing into action, or we would just always reinvent the wheel every time. So whether it is a heat wave or whether it is a pandemic, I believe that we require enormous amount of need analysis contributing to urban planning and consequent actions for which different stakeholders will be required to play their specific role. I will not drag it further, and I'm open to a few questions if there are any. Thank you very much.
बहुत शुक्रिया दानिश। अज़राए मजाक में कहना चाहूँगा कि आखिरी स्पीकर की हैसियत आखिरी शायर किसी होती है जिसे कोई सुनना नहीं चाहता। दानिश, लेकिन अगर शायर गालिब हो फिर ये नहीं होता। बहुत शुक्रिया इज़्ज़त अफजाई का। जब कोविड-19 की वबा पाकिस्तान में आई तो تو حکومتی سطح پر بہت سے حفاظتی اقدامات کیے گئے. ان میں بہت سے اقدامات کا ذکر ہمارے معزز مہمان گرامی کر چکے ہیں. میں اس وقت خاص کر کراچی کے حوالے سے بات کروں گا. جلدی میں آپ کو بتاؤں گا کہ وبا نے ہمیں فروری 2020 میں جکڑا. پہلا کیس ایک مسافر سامنے آیا جو کہ سفر کر کے کراچی آیا تھا. مارچ کے مہینے میں سخت لاک ڈاؤن لگا دیا گیا. پاکستان دوسرے صوبوں اور شہروں کی نسبت کراچی اور سندھ میں پابندیاں زیادہ کی گئیں. ایس او پیز پر بھی خاص عمل درآمد کرایا گیا. سوشل میڈیا اور ڈیجیٹل میڈیا نے عوام میں وبا اور اس سے بچاؤ کی آگاہی کے حوالے سے کام کیا. حکومت کی جانب سے جو ایک بہت بڑی کامیابی سامنے آئی وہ تھی NCOC کا قیام. جس طرح کا سیاسی ماحول ہمارے ملک میں پایا جاتا ہے اس میں NCOC کا قیام ایک بہت مثبت قدم تھا. تمام بڑے اسپتالوں میں کووڈ-19 کے لیے ٹیسٹ مراکز، قرنطینہ مراکز اور کووڈ-19 وارڈز قائم کر دیے گئے. جیسے کہ ڈاکٹر ندا اور ڈاکٹر تنوین نے بتایا، وبائی ماہرین نے مل کر وبا کی روک تھام کے لیے کافی خدمات سر انجام دیں. حفاظتی اقدامات کے طور پر وبا سے بچاؤ کے آلات بھی عوام میں بانٹے گئے. حکومتی سطح پر بھی کافی کام سامنے آیا. اس میں لاک ڈاؤن کے باعث روزمرہ آمدنی والا طبقہ بہت متاثر ہوا. بہت سے لوگوں کو کاروبار میں نقصان ہوا، جس کو مد نظر رکھتے ہوئے حکومت نے احساس پروگرام کا آغاز کیا، جس کے تحت 1.2 ٹریلین روپے کراچی سمیت ملک بھر میں تقسیم کیے گئے. NGOs کے تحت بڑے پیمانے پر خوراک، دوا اور دوسری ضروری اشیاء تقسیم کی گئیں. سپتمبر 2021 تک کے شماریات کے مطابق پاکستان میں کل 1.24 ملین لوگ کووڈ وبا کا شکار ہوئے. یہ شماریات یقینی نہیں کیونکہ یہ صرف ان لوگوں کے ہیں جنہوں نے ٹیسٹ کروایا. اموات کی کل تعداد 27,597 سے زائد رہی. کراچی سمیت سندھ بھر میں کل تعداد تقریباً نصف ملین رہی، جبکہ اموات کی تعداد 7,350 رہی. اس وبا کے حوالے سے کافی شبہات رہے کیونکہ یہ ڈیٹا مختلف اضلاع میں موصول ہو رہا تھا مگر جغرافیائی طور پر اکٹھا نہیں تھا. جو لوگ حکومت سندھ کے ساتھ کام کر رہے تھے انہیں اس میں بہت مشکلات ہوئیں. ایمرجنسی اقدامات کے حوالے سے میں کراچی کے عوام کی جانب سے، جیسا کہ کل کراچی میں زلزلے کے جھٹکے محسوس کیے گئے، تو لوگوں کا پوچھنا ہے کہ کیا ہم کسی بھی قسم کے ایمرجنسی سے نمٹنے کے لیے تیار ہیں یا ہمیں ہمیشہ کی طرح تباہی ہونے کا انتظار کرتے رہنا چاہیے، تو وہ ہیٹ ویو ہو یا وبا. میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ ہمیں حکومتی سطح پر شہری منصوبہ بندی پر کام کرنا چاہیے اور تمام متعلقہ اداروں کو آپس میں مل کر کام کرنا چاہیے. آپ لوگوں کے کوئی سوالات ہیں تو پوچھ سکتے ہیں.